another week of For a Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Kate Wilson, and I'm so incredibly excited that you are back. We took a week off last week. I am so excited because me taking a week off um, is all about why this episode is happening today. The things that God showed me in my time away and with my family. And I really just can't wait to get into all of that. But I did want to say, if you didn't see that we missed last week, we did not post an episode last week. I hope that you guys have had a chance to really go back and listen to one of the 8 episodes that have been posted up to this point. Each and every single one of those episodes are moments where God has shown up in a way that is honestly only being it's only able to be described for the person who's on the other side of it. And I can't wait to continue sharing more and more of those stories. Um, but I am excited because today's episode is all about the reflection of the last 2 weeks that I've gotten to experience. I went on a vacation. I took some time to rest. I took some time to focus my eyes back on the Lord and where where He has me going, and certain things I just didn't even know that God has been trying to tell me, and really allowed myself to focus even my hearing on just hearing from the Lord and what He needs me to listen to right now. And so, with all that being said, I want to explain kind of the last couple weeks. So, I ended up on a cruise. I went on a cruise with a couple of my family members, and which was so fun. And there is nothing like the ocean, y'all. I love it so much. The ocean, I swear, just calls my name, just like Moana. There's just something so fresh about being in the middle of the ocean on a cruise where all you can feel is wind, and it truly just makes me feel like I just have this like fresh presence of the Lord with me. And that is something I didn't really think about until I got off the boat, of just like how I felt so surrounded by just the presence of the Lord sitting, even though it was incredibly windy and there were moments where the boat was rocking really, really bad. But just like the moments and the things that I got to see and look at and feel, that like I just knew God was there in those moments, and the Holy Spirit was surrounding me. Just different conversations that I even had with people, that was just so incredibly sweet, and things that I needed to hear. Um, and so then I actually went to Panama City for a day, and then ended up all the way up in Kentucky and Ohio. Um, and went to the Noah's Ark encounter, and then went up to the Creation Museum that's in Ohio for a day. And I am back. And I honestly couldn't be more excited to be home. But just have really, really enjoyed time away, time to see the world a little bit, but also time just to really, like I said, focus my eyes on Jesus and the things that He needed me to see in my time away, the things that I have been blinded to by being here. Not that there's anything wrong about being home, but sometimes when you step out of what you're comfortable in, step out away from like everything that knows you and from all the voices of people that know situations in your life, it is so incredibly nice because you're completely focused on the only thing that can guide you outside of the maps on your phone, and that is the Holy Word and the Holy Spirit, and just allowing both those things just to be a roadmap into what God needed you to hear on those times of rest and reflection. And that's basically all that this last week or last 2 weeks has been, is just time me sitting with my family and in the presence of Jesus. And I really will never be able to explain how amazing that felt. Um, but I really did want to start with just talking about. I'm pulling it up on my phone, but I went to the Noah's Ark encounter. If you have not been, it is truly amazing. You walk in and they drive you on a bus from the parking lot to the encounter, and you walk in, and it's literally just like the moment you walk in there, you're like, oh, Jesus is here. Like, this place is sprinkled with every single bit of anointing you can feel. The people that are going, so I met this family from North Carolina, and they were so kind. And we ended up, the whole time we kind of walked around together and we talked about things in the Bible that like we have read the Noah's Ark story about 100,000 times. We've heard it 100,000 times, but there was just even things like little things on this time in the ark that I was like, what? Like, I'm so sorry, but I totally thought there was like 50 people on the ark, not 8. Not 8. It was literally just his family. It was him, his wife, and his kids. If you didn't know that, you know it now. But that was something I was like, I wonder how many people were on the ark. And like even the family that was with me was wondering the same thing. Like there's all these animals. I mean, literally so many. This place is huge. It's like 3 or 4 decks worth of animal cages and feedings and how are they cleaning stuff? How are they getting fresh water? Blah 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 blah. And I was questioning like, how are these things like I have not thought about when I just read the word? And I started thinking about the fact that it's because Noah's Ark has been made into this like really cute little toy that is so cute. And my nephew's name is Noah, and that is honestly where his name comes from. Is Noah's story, the ark, all of that stuff. And so I love that story. But it has been made into this like really sweet little kids story of Noah's Ark. Oh, there's so much more to it. And if you get the chance to go to the encounter, I'm not going to spoil it for you too much today, but I do 100% recommend going and experience for yourself and your family, because it really is. It's just so fun. And I got to see so many little kids there that were just like, look at that little lion cub. It's totally wax. But it was just really sweet just to see certain things through their eyes as an adult, too. And I think that's how a lot of parents feel when they take their kids to Disney World, just like the way that their imagination comes to life. But, anyways, that's a whole nother thing. I was sitting there and um, I was walking, I think this was on deck number 2. And when you're walking on there, you see all the different places, little habitats that they have made for even the bats, like things from dinosaurs to bats, and everything in between. And in those moments, like I was walking around and I was reading some different things, and they have little like posters on a lot of the walls in the room, on every floor that you can read. And there was one of them that I was like, "This is so funny to me." Like, I don't know why, but it was just so funny. You get to walk through different little areas of creation, the fall, the resurrection, all of that in between, and so that's really, really cool too, of, just getting just to read different things about what led up to the flood, why the flood needed to happen, the Ice Age, all of that. What happened when they walked out, how Noah knew that the flood was going to be over, the rainbow part of it. I mean, literally just every single part of the story. And then at the end, they had this really cool little area, and it's like a comic book style, um, about the love of Jesus and walking through modern day life, and choosing which route you're going to go on. So that's just a little plug about the Noah's Ark, that I absolutely love. But there were 2 parts of this in Noah's Ark that I was like, "Ah, that's so good." And immediately I felt the Lord telling me to share these things. Like I was saying, there was 2 things. So the door, as we all know that there's a door that Noah and his family all walked through, and it's this big door, like you can literally imagine it, like probably 3 stories worth of a door, maybe. I could be exaggerating that just a teeny bit, but it's his door. And there's these little posters on the wall that just like explain different parts of the ark, the stories, whatever it may be. And in this one, it was talking about just how I am the door. Whoever enters through me will be saved. Um, he specifically told Noah to build this door, on the side. And so that was the way that Noah and his family entered. And that's the way that they were going to be saved from the flood. Um, he entered the ark through this door, and honestly, that is just a simple reminder of like what happens whenever we walk into a relationship with Jesus. Um, it reminds us of the good news and exactly what's happened, because this door, you're on the outside, right? And it's flood and it's crazy, and there's a lot of suffering and pain and grief and all these things that are just absolutely terrible and from the devil and of the world and really, really hard stuff, right? And then you walk through the door, like you hear in vacation Bible school when you're telling, hey, like Jesus knocks at your heart door in order to open, and when you open that up, you're allowing something to change within you. And you walk through this door. So when they walk through the door on the other side of the onto the inside of the ark, it's protection. It is their way out of the wicked, which would be the flood in this case. And so anyways, it talks about how like God judged the world um, with the flood, and He's going to judge it again, and the final judgment will be with fire, though. And so we talk. It talks about later on how unless we ask for forgiveness for our sins, that's when we're gonna die and be separated from Christ. And when we do ask for forgiveness from our sins, we allow God to knock on our heart door, as we will, um, and experience the love of Christ. There's something so much better on the inside. And when the last few episodes that have been put out are really, really hard things. They're difficult things. But then by the end of every single episode, on the other side of it has been so much goodness and so much love from the Lord and different things that we've been able to reflect on and talk through in order to see the goodness of God. And now we're sitting here sharing those testimonies with you. And that's what this entire podcast is about. It's about literally going from the wicked, seeing grief, going through pain, to seeing good, seeing healing, seeing restoration, seeing redemption, seeing the love of Christ and what He has done in our lives, and how we know not only myself as your host, but the people that have sat here as special guests, too, the way that each have experienced those things, and we know that you listening have experienced something too. And we know that you have the opportunity to share these things just as much as we do. And I hope that you'll share that with us. I hope that you guys go send me messages on Instagram. It's literally For a Purpose Podcast. Send me messages, comment things, tell me what you want to hear more about, things that you're walking through. That's why. It's because I hopefully am you like my whole point in this podcast was never for it to be about me. It is supposed to be about Jesus and how good He is and how you can walk from seeing grief and pain and hurt by itself and walk through a door and see good and love and joy and peace and kindness from the Lord. And that was just something so unreal to me when I was sitting there thinking about this door at Noah's Ark. So if you ever get the good chance, they literally have it as a photo opportunity that you can go stand in front of that door. I did not get a photo because it was too long of a line and I was by myself. So there was that. The other part of it that really made me reflect, especially on this podcast, there was a poster on the wall that says, "Why does a loving God allow so much death and suffering?" And that really hit home for me because, especially over the last 9 months, y'all heard about, especially in the last episode, my engagement, um, which came with a lot of grief. It came with a lot of pain, but there's also been a lot of healing in it, and I've seen a lot of goodness come from it. There's the other side of things, medical conditions that I have not really discussed on here, but things that, as a 23-year-old, I never in a million years that I was going to be thinking about. Um, and this is where I kind of want to stay just for a second. To any person who, like, who is dealing with grief, pain, suffering, whatever area of life that it may come from, whether it be relationships, whether it be your job, whether it be finances, whether it be medical conditions or diagnosis, whether it be just like mental health, whatever it may be, God does not want that for you. And I am here to tell you that. If you hear anything today, hear this. Jesus loves you. And the last thing He wants is for you to only experience death, pain, grief, suffering, sorrow. He wants you to experience freedom. He wants you to experience healing. He wants you to experience joy and love and all these characteristics of who He is and who the type of life He wants us to have. And that'll preach right in itself, honestly. But there was this poster on the wall, and it was talking about how why does a loving God allow so much of this? Well, here's the thing. When the world was separated, right, from what God intended it to be, when Adam and Eve took that bite, right, and they stepped into sin, they opened that up for the rest of us. So we are all sinners, okay? Which means that opened up the world of death and suffering and grief and hell. That's what that is, okay? There's that other side of it, though. God is delaying the final judgment right now, and He's giving people time to turn to Him. And I want you to know that. He is waiting for you to seek after Him fully and full heartedly. He is waiting for you to see that on His side. Over here, if you can see me, if you're watching me, I am moving my hands. But on one side is literally of the door, it's death, it's hell, okay? And then on the other side of the door, it is life and it is freedom. And if you will turn your life and focus on what He has for you, you'll see that He does not want those things for you. He does not want death. He does not want suffering. He doesn't want pain. He's provided a way for us to spend eternity with Him. He's provided a way for us to see the glorious side of heaven, the streets of gold that we read about in the Bible. Revelations 21, 3 through 4 says they will be His people and God Himself will be there with them. God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death. Grief, crying, and pain will no longer exist because the former things have passed away. 2 Peter 3:9. The Lord is not slow to fulfill His promises. He is patient toward you, not wishing for any to perish, but for all to come to repentance. He wants you to see that without Him, life is not worth living. And that is something that's been my motto here recently. Is just like, without Him, I truly am nothing. Without the Lord, without my faith, I am not who I am. I am only who I am. And I have only been able to walk through the things that I've been able to walk through because I had Jesus standing there with me, holding my hand, walking me, guiding me to a path of freedom, to a path of healing, to a path of glorious goodness that I can only sit in because of Him. And while, yes, there are still days, even as a Christian, that are incredibly hard, there are still circumstances that I wish we didn't have to go through, but we do. We do. And it hurts and it sucks. But there's a promise on the end of it that we will never have to walk through that again because we have Jesus. And because when that final judgment day comes, we are walking into a world, into a time, into the gates of heaven that we are going to get to spend eternity with Jesus. And where He is, there is freedom. Where He is, there is love. Where He is, there is joy. And it's like anything that you've never experienced before, unless you have Jesus. So I read those things and it just really sat with me at Noah's Ark because I feel like those are things that are so missed on now. Of just like, why is it important to have a relation with Jesus? What is Christianity even about? And I found myself reflecting on that. Why do I love Jesus? I love Jesus because He has helped me. I love Jesus because He has sat with me at my worst when I couldn't quit crying for days. And He has seen me at my best, where the only thing that I could do was worship Him for His goodness and His faithfulness in the way that He has guided me to a place that only He could have gotten me to. And now here we are, and I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you guys about how good He is. I've had guests on here talking about how good He is, and I hope that encourages you. Next, I really wanted to lead into just some different points that I really felt like the Lord was really showing me in this time of just resting and reflecting, this time of focusing my eyes back on Him and where He wants me to go from here. Um, so while I was on the ocean, there is this thing that I love. There is a song, even, and it's crazy. Not the song, just it's crazy. All of it's crazy. A fresh wind. Um, there is nothing better than taking a moment outside, taking a deep breath, and feeling His presence. When I take a moment to relax, to breathe fully, it is like my lungs are refreshed. It is like I went from feeling incredibly tight to feeling incredibly relaxed. And over the last 2 weeks, I've really experienced that with being on vacation. Um, and I started thinking, well, why doesn't this happen when I'm not on vacation, you know? And I started going through these things in my mind like, what have I not put in my life or thought about when I'm sitting at home and I'm planning out my weeks? Why don't I allow days for rest? Why don't I allow myself to relax? Because that's so needed. So I wrote down these 5 things that I felt like God was really showing me about relaxing, reflecting, resting, um, that I think we need to implement into everyday life. So the first thing is it's okay to take a step back, to breathe, to fix your eyes. Sometimes we get so involved with things we forget our why. And it's hard to get back to that. Taylor, who's been on the podcast before, she told me one time, she said, somebody told her that your cry is your why. And there were so many times that I was like, what does that even mean? Just because I cry about literally anything. I could sit here right now and probably start crying just because. Um, I would have been a good actor, I think. That's not before this year. I could not cry before this year. But when I did cry, it was because I truly genuinely cared. When I did cry, it was because that's when I felt like my heart was breaking or because that's when the moments that I felt so incredibly happy. Um, my mom used to crack me up because we would watch different movies and stuff as children, and she would just cry like at random movies, at random TV shows. And it would just be like, it could be both sad parts, but it could also be very happy parts. And I was always like, Mom, why are you crying? It's just a TV show. And now that I'm an adult, I'm like, oh, I know why you're crying. There was meaning there. And so when I wrote this down, it's okay to just take a step back. It's okay to reflect on your why. Remind yourself, why did I start doing this? Why did God lead me here? What happened for this to happen in my life? And with that, I started reflecting on just like even the starting of this podcast. Why did I start this? I started this podcast because in the moment where I was completely down and broken, this podcast was laid on my heart 3 years ago. I didn't start it until what, 2 months ago now? And yeah, 2 months ago. And I have been walking through a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. In the moments that I've cried the most, it's because that's something I truly and genuinely cared about. And when I thought about this podcast, it was because all those things that I cried about, they had a purpose. And here we are. And when I was sitting last week and I was sitting and thinking about just like future episodes and thinking about where I want to take this and what I hope that, the Lord is going to allow me to influence because of this podcast in order to just bring glory to his name, I started thinking about the why of the things that I have walked through. And while there are days that I still have to question, why did I walk through this? Why did this have to be my story? Why am I the 23-year-old that thinks that she may never have a child of her own? And that's a podcast episode that we'll get into later. But a lot of my medical conditions that I do have, like, why is that my life? And then there was the flip side of it when I heard from the Lord, when He literally said it's for a purpose. And if you would just allow yourself to see the why behind what you're doing, the why because of where I have you, the why you started this, you would see that it's all for me. And I was like, okay, Lord, I'll quit complaining. I'll quit asking why. He wants you to ask why. He wants you to wonder. Um, there's a song, "May I never lose the wonder of your presence." It is literally in my bio on Instagram. There is nothing more that I never want to lose than the wonder of who he is because he is so much bigger than anything I can ever think or imagine. And in that, there are so many things that we're going to wonder why about. Why did that happen? And we may never learn the answer. Why are we doing this? Well, I don't know. Because the Lord told me to. And that's where it sticks. And so I hope today you take a second, you ask yourself why. If there is something going on in your life and you have no idea what to do about it, ask yourself why. Ask yourself why Jesus has you there. And if you cannot come up with an answer, if he does not point you to something in your life, if he does not show you something in the Bible, if you don't feel peace about that, take a step back. Allow him to show you those things again. Um, And the next part of that statement was to breathe. You have to allow yourself to take a breath of fresh air. You cannot do anything without breath in your lungs. That's why we talk all the time about how Jesus is the breath of life. And yes, there is the bread. He is the bread of life, but he is fresh breath. There is nothing like fresh breath that he allows you to intake. Um, I had thought about this when I was standing in the wind. There is nothing that surrounds me more that I know the Lord is there when I'm standing in something that just feels so incredibly pressure, like the amount of wind that you experience on a cruise. And I just feel so much just like comfort in it. But it's because you have to be able to breathe. And when you breathe in and you breathe out and you feel that wind just stirring around you, there is something happening inside of you. And it is just so fun. And I love it so much. And it's just the Lord just showing you certain things and reminding you to take a breath, reminding you to focus your eyes back on Him, have a kingdom perspective, to remind yourself that wherever you go, if God's not there with you, you shouldn't want it. Wherever you feel the disruption of your peace because something from the world, the devil is trying to sneak in, fix your eyes back to Jesus. I promise you it makes such a big difference. Um, You have to remind yourself to rest too, and that's such a big part of breathing. Your body can only take so much. There was even times that Jesus would go sit by himself in order to refuel. He spent time with the Lord in order to come back and so he could continue spreading the gospel. You have to pull yourself away for a moment. You have to be able to take a step back. You have to be able to breathe. You have to be able to refix your eyes because when you're so busy all the time, when you forget what's going on in your life, sometimes the distractions end up speaking way louder than Jesus, and it gets hard. It gets hard to hear from him. And there's been moments in my own life, especially here recently, I've been so incredibly busy and I've gotten so overstimulated and so overwhelmed. People know this about me, but social events freak me out. And it's not because I don't love people, because I do, but I get so overstimulated so easy. My anxiety goes through the roof, literally. And when I was sitting last week on a cruise, you are literally in a confined space, a boat with thousands of people on a boat, and there's people everywhere. You can't even get on an elevator 90% of the time because there's so many people. And I just get so overwhelmed. I don't like the grocery store for that reason. It just stresses me out. Um, but I will get so overstimulated, so overwhelmed, and I have to pull myself back. When your body is telling you, the doctor will even say like when you get sick. When you get sick, sometimes it literally is just your body telling you you've done too much. You have gone too far. You need time to sit and rest. There is a thing spiritually that happens too. When you have not allowed yourself to fix your eyes on Jesus, allowed yourself to rest in his presence, you will get burnout. And it is hard to come back from some days. Um, when you have not allowed yourself to go back and think again and sit on what Jesus originally stirred up in you for why you were doing what you're doing, it's hard to come back from that. So rest is incredibly important. Um, The next thing I wanted to talk about is how, because talking about all of those things, just in that first point, the next one is God isn't asking you to figure it out. He's asking you to trust that He already has. So while you're resting and reflecting, and there's so many things that can come up that can be confusing because while you're fixing your eyes, the devil's going to try to come in and attack. He's going to try to stir your mind. He's going to try to pressure you, make you overwhelmed. It's all part of it, okay? He isn't asking you to figure it out on those moments. So me sitting on a boat last week talking to you about the things that the Lord is showing me right now, that doesn't mean that I have it all figured out. I'm gonna be honest, some of these things I'm preaching to myself about. Reminding myself to take a step outside and breathe every day. I have it on my phone. That's the way that I make sure it happens. And I have a dog I have to walk. Reminding myself to take a nap every once in a while in order for my body to refuel itself. It's okay. Reminding myself that stressing my bones and my muscles every day at the gym, it's not healthy. There is a healthy amount that you can do, but figuring it all out that day, it's just going to exhaust you even more. And if you don't allow yourself to realize that Jesus already has, and if you'll just trust him with that, I promise you, the relaxing comes so much easier. There's been a situation even here recently that I've had to walk through that it's been really, really hard. And I have no idea why I'm having to deal with this whatsoever. It has been so incredibly difficult to remind myself over and over again to just relax, to trust that Jesus has a plan for this, that what he has coming is going to be so much bigger, so much greater, and I just need to sit and allow him to move the way he needs to move right now. So if that means even for me, I had read this post and I wish I could have find it because I don't know where it went, but or who posted it. But it was talking all about how sometimes just not even saying a word because that's not he didn't ask. He doesn't need you to right now. He is working things out while you're sitting there being quiet and you're allowing him to move. And that's okay. Sometimes it is speaking. You will know when it's okay to speak. You will know when the Lord is putting something in your life, putting something on your heart, putting something on your mind, putting specific people in your way that those things were supposed to happen, that they were ordained by God. And there's a reason for all of that. But some days, it's okay to just not say a thing. It is okay to trust that He is figuring it out and that He already has. Because you're not meant to do this alone. Life is hard. And without a map, aka our Bible, it is hard to go through it. It is hard to figure things out because we're human. And we weren't supposed to have all the X's and O's and I's dotted and T's crossed in every single part of life because it's just not possible. Jesus can make that possible though. Um, so that was something, and then down at the bottom, I'm skipping around. It says sometimes the hard isn't walking away, it's staying present, staying kind, and staying patient. There's been so many moments in my life where the first thing I knew how to do was walk away. And sometimes God has said, "Yep, it's time. I'm removing that from your life because either it has gone the complete opposite way that it was supposed to, or because it's just no longer bringing life to my life. It's no longer a light in the dark. It is pain instead. It is grief and sorrow. It has turned completely opposite than what it was supposed to." And when that happens, that's okay. It's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of things that we're not going to understand as to why we had to walk away from. But there is that other side of it. Staying, staying is like it's hard. The fight is worth it though. Some days though, the fight is incredible. It's so much harder than what like you would imagine. I was trying to think of just like a better way to explain that, but one of the things that I really started thinking about in that specific statement that I had wrote down last week was I have a decision I have to make next week, and it has to do with one of my medical conditions that I have. Well, one that includes like a lot of my medical conditions. I have severe endometriosis, PCOS, incestial cystitis, pelvic inflammatory, chronic pelvic chronic pelvic floor inflammatory disease, and a few other things that all have to do with my reproductive system. I have suffered with this since I was 14. And every year since I was 14, I've had a surgery in order to help clear out as much as we could in order to keep everything regulated for me. I'm not going to get into all the medical side of that because it just is it's a lot and each one of those things is a lot. But earlier this year, I had a conversation with my doctor, and I say all this to say I have talked to a lot of doctors. I 100% have um, had a medical journey with this, but in different doctors with all of this, conversations with other people that have been diagnosed with things that I have. Um, there are days that the fight is incredibly hard, though. The days that I can barely sit down, but also the days that I can barely get out of bed. It takes a toll on your mental health in a whole nother way that like is very hard to explain. But as 23-year-old, as a female, it is hard to hear the words, "It may be time to start thinking about having a hysterectomy." There is nothing in the world that can prepare you for that moment. Because of the amount of surgeries that I've had, I was prepared to stop fighting. I was prepared to go ahead and just give it up. Next week, I was supposed to make that decision. What I am so grateful for when it comes to my doctor is he is a good Christian man. And there is absolutely not a single thing that he has not done for me that he has not prayed over first. And when we had our conversation at my last doctor's appointment, he was like, I knew this was conversation was happening today. And when I was praying over you in this appointment today, I wanted to remind you it's between you and God. He's going to give you peace about what decision to make. Here's the thing my appointment's next week, and I still have no idea. And a couple days ago, when I was standing on the ark, I started thinking about the fact that the fight is hard, but it is so incredibly worth it. Because while there is suffering there, there is a lot of pain there. It's not going to last forever. And I am fully believing for a complete healing. And I am working so hard to take steps in order to help the healing process. My doctor is helping me with those things even and telling me and helping me even functionally rather than medications. Different things that have been just like things that I had not done in the past. So today I was on the phone with a friend and I was telling them that I changed my mind. Before this past weekend, I was fully ready to say that I was getting a hysterectomy because I was so tired of the pain and I was so tired of the fight because there are some days that the people around me don't even understand what that fight looks like. The days that I can barely do anything, the days that my brain is so foggy that I can't think straight. It's hard to explain that to people who don't experience that daily either. And it's hard for me to explain it to myself some days. And so I got to the point that I was no longer kind to myself about it. I was no longer patient with myself. I wasn't patient with God. truly began just down this path of just like completely questioning, is this fight worth it anymore? And then got this statement that I wrote down, and I started thinking about the fact that just because, let's say, even with the surgery, so if I would have had a hysterectomy, that doesn't mean all the pain was going to go away. Starting over is not always easiest. Fighting, staying patient, allowing God to work, to use your story, whatever it may be, for a purpose, it's making a difference. And while even on my side, my medical conditions have been a pain, there's been a lot of grief, a lot. And it has been incredibly hard. If I give up now, I'm walking away from the one desire that I know God placed on my heart as a little girl, and that is to be a mom, that is to be a wife. And I was willing to give up those dreams because I was so tired. And I was tired of the pain and the fighting. And God constantly reminds me the fight is so worth it. I wait for the day that God is going to look at me and say, "You fought well. Well done, good and faithful servant." And while I don't know when that day is going to come, I don't want to give up now. Not until there is peace from the Lord that walking away is better than fighting. And until that day comes, I'm going to stay patient. I'm going to stay kind to myself, to other people. I'm going to stay patient with other people who don't understand things. I'm going to stay present in exactly where God has me today, because if I am rushing things or if I am dwelling on the past, I am not focusing on why God is doing the things that He's doing in my life right now. Even though this has been 10 years of my medical conditions, there is a reason for it. And the day that I do get to experience, and I am fully believing that I will get to experience what it's like to be pregnant and to be a mom, to carry and bear my own child. Even though my doctor at the age of 14 told me I was going to struggle and I was going to miscarry a ton. And I fully believed that at 14. I know what I've walked through now. And I was telling this friend that I was on the phone with, sometimes the starting over isn't any better than where you were. You're just going to walk through all of it all over again. And thinking about like even my medical journey, my doctor told me when we were talking about the hysterectomy back in February, he told me, "Kate, I can say it'll help probably 50%." Well, 50% isn't 100%. So in that case, fighting is still worth it. If I can figure this out, if I can, if I, and not even if I can figure this out, when God figures this out, because I trust that He already has, it makes a difference, and there will be healing, and I'm fully believing that. And so I hope, if you are walking through something where you're concerned about, is it better to stay? Is it better to walk away? Ask yourself. Or maybe it's something you're going back to. Um, Even if we add on to that, maybe you walked away from something you should have never walked away from. And you're realizing that because there are things that God's going to continue to put in your path. He's going to continue to bring up that person. He's going to continue to, whatever it may be, He's going to continue to walk you in that direction that you don't want to go in, but somehow you keep finding yourself there. You're like, "Oh, I was supposed to stay there. I was supposed to stay present in that, and I walked away because the other alternative looked better." It doesn't always stay better. That path is from the devil. And if you will just continue on the path of the Lord, the path that He has planned for you, trusting that He has it figured out for you already, I promise you that staying present, that staying kind, that staying patient comes so much easier, because you will see joy and love and so many added values to your life. It's unreal. And so that was that one. The next one I really wanted to talk on was, just right after that, is healing begins when hiding ends. You can't be fully loved if you're only partially seen. Something I've really challenged myself with this year is just being incredibly authentic. It's so easy to hide, especially as a Christian, just exactly what you're going through, and to put on this face that you're okay and that you're not stressed and that you're not overwhelmed and that you are not sick, whatever it may be with. It's okay. It's easy to hide the diagnosis. It's easy just to put a smile on your face and go about your day. I'm telling you, this year I have experienced so much more peace because of the fact that I have allowed people to see into me. I have allowed people to see the ugly. I've allowed people to see the pretty. I have allowed people to speak into both of those things. I have allowed myself to be honest with myself and with other people about where my mind's at, about how I'm feeling about those things. And it's crazy what's happening on the outside of that. Like just a conversation I had the other day about just like how I was feeling about something with a person. Me telling that person those things, they literally responded and said, "You couldn't have said that any better because I've been feeling the same way. And I didn't know how to express those things to you because I was scared." Let me just tell you something. Healing on any side, it's scary. But if you take that step forward, that's where growth comes. Um, Dr. Henry Cloud said the first step changes everything. You can't grow and stay the same. If you're continuously just pushing however you're feeling deep, there is no healing there. That is hiding. And allowing yourself to fully speak exactly where your mind is. Obviously, please put some thought into what you're going to say and where the Lord is leading you. Please pray about it. But there is that side of things that's like, quit hiding. It's not helping you. It's not helping anybody else. It's not helping your relationship with Christ because He already sees it and knows what you're thinking. So put yourself into the shoes of, hey, I'm going to allow myself to be fully present, to be fully seen by the people around me because I need them to see the honest me, the authentic me, the genuine me, in order for me to experience real healing, in order for me to see change and growth in my life, in order for me to see different things of the Lord that I have yet to see. I promise you that has been something that this year I've been like, whoa, I don't think a year ago Kate would have said that. Will she say it now? She sure will because here we are. I'm putting you guys like, I mean, you guys can literally, this is my life. These are other people's lives. They're being fully authentic people and sharing parts of their lives. And they're only doing that because they're taking a step forward. They're sharing growth. They're sharing the change in their lives. They're sharing the healing that they've got to experience by fully being open and honest and not hiding what they're going through. Um, Days are hard. Life is hard, and we were never meant to do it alone. And allowing people, and especially allowing Jesus into it, inviting him into those things, that's where he wants to be because he wants to show you different things about that circumstance, that situation that only he can show you. So that's my 2 cents about that. Lastly, this is probably my favorite one on this list because I have learned it so much this year. It is okay to say no. Protect yourself and what God is doing inside of you by not allowing the things of the world, of the devil, into your life. Y'all, saying no is hard. It is so hard. Protecting your peace, though, not allowing disrespect, not allowing drama, not allowing things to disturb you the way that the world wants it to, there's power in that. And it feels so good. Now, don't be cocky about it, but there is that side of it um, that I was reading in Job, and it's talking about how um, Zophar, Zophar's talking about like why people suffer from things. And here's the thing, though: saying no, just like this story in Job, saying no with a kingdom perspective is so good because if you're looking at it from the kingdom side of saying no, you're protecting what God is doing in your life. There is something inside of you that is saying the complete opposite, but if you're sitting there with a kingdom mindset, a kingdom outlook on, hey, this is not what God is asking me to do right now. And people are not always going to 100% understand that. People are not always going to be on board with that, but the Lord's going to honor it. And he's going to honor your obedience. And while that is so hard, I was reading this post earlier today, and I do have it saved because it was so good. Let's see. Okay. So it talks about like how when you're obedient to protecting what God is doing in your life and protecting your peace, it can feel like a lot of loss because a lot of people aren't going to understand it. You're going to lose a lot of relationships. You're going to lose control. You're going to lose the plan, and that's so hard. But with a kingdom mindset, a kingdom perspective of, while I know this is hard and it sucks right now, if I'm saying no to that because I don't have peace about it because the Lord does not want me there for whatever reason, God is doing something inside of you, and that is just so much better. Sometimes staying quiet is better than that. Even though every part of you wants to speak, saying no to your mind, saying no to your voice in that moment, whatever it may be for, sometimes it's because you just don't need to say those words whatsoever. God is asking you to trust him with something new. He's asking you to trust him as you walk into whatever you he may have you walking into, whatever that he needs you to obey him for, saying no is a perfect place to start. There has been times that I have hurt people's feelings because I didn't show up to something. It wasn't because I didn't wanna be there. It was because I knew I didn't need to be. Um, some of my story, especially in the last few years, has a lot to do with a father figure in my life that I have had a really, really hard time being around certain things in his life, and this is my biological father. Um, my siblings and I have fought left and right about it because I would not show up to things. I would not wouldn't didn't wanna be in photos. Asked my sister about that. That was a time I did not want it. And part of that had to do with the fact that the Lord was teaching me so much about my peace and how much anxiety I'd had about so many different things in my life. And so I was trying to be obedient to what the Lord was calling me to. And while, yes, honoring your father and your mother is one of the 10 commandments, allowing disrespect in your life is not something that the Lord honors either. And um, and I'm not disrespecting my dad anyway, by any means, by anything I'm saying right now, because I do care about this person and I fully love my siblings. But there was a lot of times that me and them would fight because I wouldn't show up to things. I would say no instead of responding to a conversation. I would say, no, I don't care. No, I didn't need to talk about it. There were things that I hid from them that they did not need to know. Of course, things have changed now and there's been conversations and people know things. But a conversation that could have happened 2 years ago about things that were going on to my conversations now, there's like a huge mental maturity state that not only I am in, but a difference even where they're in the conversations I've had with them about things that have happened, about conversations that have been had, about whatever it may be about, just the way that God needed me back then to just allow him to work and allow him to move and to protect what God was doing in my life at that point. And so saying no to the things that were not of God, especially in that part of my story, there was a lot of times that I wanted to say stuff, but instead I was obedient to the fact that the Lord needed me to just sit and allow him to show me certain things and show me wrongs that I was doing. I have admitted to those wrongs and I will admit to those wrongs even today because there were things that I did. There were things that I said. There were things that I am not proud of because I am human. And I have apologized for those things. And even with my siblings, there are things that constantly are being brought up now that there are days hang up the phone because the conversation is just not worth fights because the Lord didn't want us to speak that way to each other. And I have found so many different moments where the Lord is reminding me, Kate, it's okay to protect what I've done in your life, what I'm continuing to do in your life. I don't want those things that may be being brought up right now to take you away from what else I'm showing you. So saying no and being obedient to where God has you and not allowing things of the world from the devil, the way that he's trying to disrupt certain things in your life that the Lord is doing, reminding yourself to stay focused, keeping your eyes on him and saying no. It's a huge step in faith that I don't think a lot of people can say no. It also helps with burnout, making sure that you're saying no and not because you don't want to be somewhere, but because you know that you need to rest. You know that you need a vacation if that's what it takes, or you know that like you have overscheduled yourself and maybe you just don't need to go in any of them because you don't want to feel bad. And that's just part of it. And so reminding yourself that it's okay to say no is huge. And it's something I'm still learning. I did it badly a few years ago. I would say yes to something and then I just last minute wouldn't show up. I would tell them I wasn't coming. And so I was really, really bad about that a few years ago. Now I will let them know if I'm coming or if I'm not. And if I don't feel peace about it, I won't be there. If I am already busy that week, I won't be there because I need time to sit and reflect and rest the way that Jesus did when he went to sit and reflect and sit at the feet of Jesus, sit at the feet and have a connection with God in private. And those are things that we need to focus on even now because the world is busy. Life never stops, it keeps moving. But if we don't find time to sit down and to focus on the Lord, it's going to just continue, keep moving, and you're going to lose track of the one thing that we're supposed to pay the most attention to, and that is Jesus. So, all that to be said, that was a lot. But thanks for. I hope you listened to all of this. But if you um, and if you did, I appreciate it because those were 5 different things that I hope all flowed together. Um, they were things that I just didn't realize I needed to know too. And um, I cannot wait for the rest of this season for the stories that are going to be told and for the way that God is moving and showing up. Just through the stories that I've already heard by the things that people have told me that they've heard through the words of not only me, but that have been guests on here too. Y'all have no idea what it means to me to have a platform that I get to share the goodness of God and that I get to share just the stories with other people, um, and see y'all be like, "Oh, I'm going through that right now," and like that statement helped me so much, and this is where God has shown up in my life right here too, and that has just been so magical. It's been so healing for me, and um, I really wish I could explain that on so many levels because it's just an unreal feeling, truly. Um, so, all of that to say, make sure you're following us on Instagram. That is when me or my assistant are posting about the new episodes coming out. Make sure to stay there tuned as well too, because maybe if we're missing a week or whatever is happening, who knows about some giveaways possibly coming up soon. Whatever it may be, stay tuned and stay in the know on our Instagram for a Purpose podcast. Um, and we will see you next week. I hope you enjoyed today's message, and we will see you soon.